So I'm going to be posting regularly now. I don't know if it's because I genuinely want to create content to put onto the internet or if it's just because I want to talk. Um, but either way, this is happening, so here we are. Now, if you are a future film college watching these, I would highly recommend you steer away from this YouTube channel because it is not a good reflection of me as a filmmaker. I do not really post my films on here, so go check out my film Freeway. You should be able to find it by just looking up my full name, Maya Bodrand. And chances are you know how to spell that if you are looking at this video and you found this video. Yeah. This is more of kind of like a venting space, also just me communicating. And if I'm being completely transparent, this is really for future me to really just rewatch. Hopefully laugh at myself. Hopefully don't laugh too much. Yeah. So now that I put that disclaimer out for colleges, enjoy if you must. Anyways, so today I'm going to be talking about something that's really specific to today in the world and partially having to do with COVID. Actually, it has a lot to do with COVID. I know everyone's sick of talking about it because it's been maybe 2 years. But I think transitioning into a normal life is going to be a little bit more difficult than we all kind of anticipated, at least for me, and I know some of my friends. So if you're watching this, obviously you know what the COVID-19 pandemic was, or still is, unfortunately. But I have not been to in-person school in 2 years, and I find that personally, when I am in a social situation, so when I am in large groups of people, I am extremely social. Most of the time, if I'm feeling healthy and I'm feeling good, then I'm really social. And I want to talk a lot. I want to engage with people. Obviously, to have the confidence to just like post on YouTube, it takes some being comfortable. It takes a little bit of braveness. To say the least, because you're being vulnerable, but it also takes an aspect of being able to be social, even if it's just creating a video. But I also am very, very introverted when I'm by myself. And because I've been isolating myself, my family took the pandemic very seriously. We did not hang out with anyone. I did not go back to in-person schooling when it was an option. So I've really taken an extreme step in isolating myself, and I have since seen friends, but I have definitely noticed a change in how I interact with people, and I think that that's really, really normal. As far as I know, I'm not a therapist. I do not study these things, but from my behavior, and I've been watching and listening to some podcasts and some videos about this as well, it seems to be a really normal reaction, because this is something we've never experienced before, and just kind of adapting. It took a while to just adapt to COVID-19 and taking precautions, and it was extremely exhausting, and mentally it took a lot, right? Like that happened, like that we went through a global pandemic. That happened. I don't even know how to mentally process that right now. I don't know if I ever will. It's just such an odd thing to go through. And it kind of changes your perspective on anything, but that's probably a whole video on its own. So to have adapted to that and now go back to normal, it just doesn't seem right. And I think it creates a lot of anxiety in people who've had anxiety before, in people who never had anxiety. I've always had a tiny bit of anxiety, which is normal. But since the pandemic and other personal things going on, health related, it's really kind of became an actual issue as far as going out into the world and living a normal life, or at least trying to go back to that. It's very, very difficult now. And I think that that's partly because COVID almost made us all germaphobes. It made us afraid of people. It made us afraid of large gatherings. It made us afraid of these things that we never really thought twice about, at least as just kind of a normal person. I'm sure there are people who did have to experience that, and that must have been really tough. I can only imagine how it is for them now, especially people who are germaphobes must be going through hell right now. So I think the most obvious aspect is definitely masks, taking them on, taking them off, because the truth is COVID isn't over, and I don't think there's ever going to be a day where they just say, it's over, you guys can go out, do whatever you want. It's up to us to kind of individually make that decision. And there was a moment in a period, I think it was like a month or two ago, where the vaccines just came out, 50% or more of the people, at least in my area, were vaccinated. So people were taking their masks off because, CDC told us, take your masks off, live your normal lives if you're fully vaccinated. Joe Biden was telling us that, these high figures were telling us it's safe now. And it's almost like it created a trust issue in us, because then the Delta variant came and we saw how much stronger, how much faster it spread. And then we're all kind of here like, what the hell? Like, what are we supposed to do now? So we put them back on. And so now if someone tells me, oh, yeah, you can take your mask off, it's kind of like, I don't know. I feel exposed. I feel like I don't want to get sick. I have experienced being sick, as most people have. Especially though through this pandemic, I've had my own health things to deal with. So I don't want anything on top of that. And also, it just feels unnatural now. Like, people can see the lower part of your face. I'm so used to just expressing my feelings, my thoughts through my eyes now. And now, who the hell knows what's going down here? Like, I think at some point during the pandemic, I was like, lost all consciousness of my nose down to my chin. And I don't know, sometimes for fun, I'd like stick my tongue out at people and they wouldn't know. And I know that sounds so childish, but it was so fun. And it just kind of became a habit. But yeah, so masks, definitely one thing that, we just don't really know what's going on with it. But also, the next thing is, because I haven't seen anybody, I become used to that. And when I do go out and see people, it's so mentally draining that I just don't even want to go sometimes. And if I'm being completely honest, I've been listening to Emma Chamberlain's podcast. I believe it's called Anything Goes. I relate to her so much. I was never a big Emma Chamberlain fan. I watched her videos, I think, once or twice when I was in middle school, but I never really engaged in any of her content. But ever since she's changed, at least her editing style, she's kind of changed as a person, I relate to her a whole lot more. And she was talking about just how she doesn't really want to go out and do things anymore. Like, we should be excited to go out. We should be excited that things are becoming better. At least it seems that way after the Delta variant. And I'm thinking about school right now. School was already so mentally draining. And now we're going to be I'm going to be going into sophomore year. It's a harder school, probably more work. There's physical work involved. There's obviously mental work involved for academics. That is going to be so mentally draining. And starting next week, I have to go 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for some orientation things. And I'm excited, don't get me wrong. I want to meet new people. I want to go start a new life, but I'm having a bit of anxiety surrounding that. Because of the mask thing, because just like, being sick, but it's even more than just not wanting to get sick. It's so much physical work and mental work to be out that long now without being in my room, without having my bed here, without, scrolling through my phone, without being able to just sit on the ground and draw for hours on end and feeling comfortable in one space by myself. I don't know. It's crazy. It's so different. I guess I'll just have to wait and see. But I honestly have not spent more than 3 to 4 hours with a friend the summer, perhaps in the past 2 years, and not 2 years, I want to say maybe 1 year, I did have a sleepover at the beginning of the pandemic, because we quarantined beforehand. I just don't want to hang out with people for that long now, because it just takes so much energy. And also there's a lot of anxiety around things that I'm dealing with myself. So difficult. It's definitely difficult. But I'm sure everything's going to turn out fine. And for me, it's more difficult, it seems, to adjust to going back to a normal life than it was to adjust to the pandemic. Because we're going to be having to do more physical, mental work now. But, this is the way life is going to go. So I'm sure it's going to be fine. The worst thing that happens is you can't handle it and you have to take a break. And that's not the end of the world, right? Yeah. I don't know. If anyone watched this far, I'd be interested in knowing how you're feeling. I'm excited, but, also with everything I talked about, that's underneath all the excitement also, so. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I look forward to my next ramble on screen. Rambles on Screen. Maybe that's the name of this series now. Alright guys, bye.